Now we are alive. Hello, everybody. My name is Mayara Floss. This is the 5th Rural Family Medicine Cafe, and our theme today is leadership. We have some people from around the world that have some connection with this, and we can talk a little bit with family medicine, rural family medicine, and leadership, and our expectations and everything. So I pass the word first to Veronica to talk a bit about her, and each one could present. And we just have Maria Colon that's joining us now. So Veronica, you can start.
Hi, my name is Veronica. I'm from Croatia. I'm a family medicine trainee. I'm currently working in a rural area of Croatia with a town of about 2,000 people. I'm also a member of the Vasco da Gama movement and currently the Beyond Europe liaison. Maria?
Yeah, I think
There's
Maria
a lot
is
of
coming.
noise, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe Ewing, can you talk a bit about you, and then we move to Maria?
Yeah, sure. My name's Ewan McPhee. I'm a GP obstetrician in a town in Australia called Emerald. The town has a population of about 15,000. I've been here for 30 years. I've been involved in GP training for about 20 years, particularly interested in young doctor training. So my medical practice is part of the general practice training program, both for rural doctors and for general pathway doctors. Particularly interested in your thoughts on rural leadership for young doctors. We have a College of Rural and Remote Medicine in Australia, which is certainly very involved in training young rural doctors, as well as a College of GPs, who also have a national rural faculty. So there's a lot of interest in getting young doctors out to the country, but also building leadership in rural practice. So very interested on hearing what you're all talking about.
Okay, and Bianca?
Hi guys, my name is Bianca. I'm a medical student in Brazil, and I don't know what else to say. I'm here to add a little bit with my experience and willing to learn more from.
Amber?
Hello, my name's Amber. I'm currently a medical student at Swansea University in the UK. I'm originally from the British Virgin Islands. My experience with rural health has been through the rural and remote health in medical education tracks at my university, and also just general interest in global health.
Okay, so we can start with our them. I think Maria will try to come back. But we have a lot of things going on now on rural Wonka and even family medicine Wonka. We have some initiative, and then we have a lot of leadership, and I think now leaders are coming, and even I think maybe we don't have all the people that we would like here to talk about all the programs that are coming, but maybe we can talk a bit how a student could learn, or even a young doctor, to be a new leaderance, and how is harsh and difficult to create new leaderance. It's kind of thing that worries me a lot, and even I created and coordinated a project with remote area, not remote, but at least rural urban areas with fishing communities. It was kind of really hard to create new leaderances and find people that are truly interested to maintain the things keep going. So I think it's one of the difficulties that we have. So I have a question for us, like what is leadership, and what's liderans could need to have to be a leader? Someone would like to talk?
I guess that I think most people get a bit put off when they hear you should be a leader or leadership, and I think lots of people think that it's something bigger and greater than it is. That they have to have, I don't know how many skills and a lot of knowledge to become a leader, but I think it's more based on showing initiative in something and then trying to organize. And in my experience, you kind of learn things along the way. And I guess it would be nice to have some kind of organized program where you get into leadership skills and things like that. But I don't know exactly what skills a leader should have before they try to lead something, I guess. I'm not sure if it's something you kind of are born with or if it's more something that you learn through the process of trying something new. That's all.
Anyone would like to talk?
I wouldn't mind jumping in.
Yeah.
So being a leader in the setting of family medicine to me means, first of all, being confident in your ability and your limitations as a doctor, and being able to use that to be an advocate for your patient. Because a lot of being a leader is not necessarily leading a whole community, but it's kind of being the leader, even if the relationship is just between you and your patient, because you do have to get the dynamics of that relationship correct in order to get the most out of the consultation. I also think that being a leader when you're a doctor means fulfilling, I guess, this role to know what's best from the organizational point of view for your patient population. So, for example, I really like doing audits, not because, I like filing papers and doing numbers, but I really like the fact that you look at what's been done and try to improve wherever you may have fallen down to improve things for your patient experience later on.
Yeah. Bianca?
Actually, I agree with Veronica that myself, especially, I'm a little bit anxious, and sometimes that I'm worried about what someone or what I should have to be a leader, and I always have some idea that I should be something bigger and do more things. But sometimes I do believe that having some initiative and trying to do to be part of things, and sometimes engaging in projects that already exists, sometimes it's enough. So I don't know. Especially being a student, I feel that sometimes I don't know where to go, or where I don't know exactly what I could create. I prefer as a student just to follow some people that already have more experience than me, and then maybe I will be capable to create something new. I guess.
I think, I don't know, even would like to talk?
Yeah, sure. I was thinking that leadership, particularly for medical students and young doctors, is can be quite a challenge, because it's something that you have to fit into everything else that you do. So your training, your rural placements, having to pass exams and do everything else. It's sometimes quite challenging to also then become a leader as well. So I guess to think about leadership, you think about different levels of leadership. Some people are quite daunted when they think that, oh, if I have to be a leader, I have to add this to everything I do. But often you can take time, you can start with small things. You can lead a group. When you come to a rural community, you can do a project which might address a health need or a social issue in a community and develop some skills that way in things like advocacy and public speaking or whatever. Because for rural doctors, we are often the ambassadors for health with our local communities, but also with government as well. So I think it's a matter of starting small, doing one or two things and building up over time. What I think, I see a lot of very good leaders, are very passionate people, but they don't push forward because of, I guess, all these time pressures and worry that if they take on leadership roles that it'll affect them in other ways. I think the other thing about leadership for you to think about is leadership requires support and recognition, and your universities, your professional colleges should, if they don't already have, the ability or a mechanism by which to give the medical student and the young rural doctor a voice within their organisation. And otherwise, again, you've got no way to take forward what you want to say and what you want to do. So I guess I talk about that rural leadership and community leadership, but then that organisational leadership, but I do think that requires a structure to support it. I know in Australia, the rural branches of both the College of GPs and the College of Remote Medicine strongly support students, and that is really important, that the organisations that train GPs support students and support young doctors to be leaders. The other aspect of leadership to think about is what you guys are doing, to be advocates and to be somewhat outspoken, and use things like social media and your national conferences. So there are plenty of opportunities. It's grasping those opportunities, I suppose, that's the real opportunity and challenge.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, I think you need to have some kind of or natural skills or develop the skills to be a leader as well, because you need to run, like, as a medical student, you need to need very organized, and sometimes even put your, sometimes you shouldn't, or your universe shouldn't do it, but they do, like you put your necessities, or even like sometimes you need to manage your time and study less because you're developing something. And this is one of the things that sometimes worries me, like if I get another student or even young doctor that is not doing the same things than me and needs time, and you need to be ready and you need to study about some things, and then you are not going to study about cardiac insufficiency or hearts and lungs and everything. So this was things that sometimes I get a little bit worried about, managing my own time and sharing with doing and other things. And I think I have some kind of problem that I need to manage better, but because I love what I do, so I do a lot of things relating with what I love, but sometimes it's kind of hard. But I think, like, the people that are here, we are most of them now students and are in learning process, and I think we are kind of changing the things, because even we created a space of leadership here. Sometimes I think that we are creating new skills here on the Family Medicine Cafe and on the discussions, and creating new groups about rural family medicine, and even it was things that a year ago doesn't exist. So it's just my own impressions. I think who is here is taking your time to create new space, and this is kind of a leadership. But it's kind of hard to find time as well. I don't know what you think.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you, Maya, that it can be very difficult to juggle all of your responsibilities. And I know for me, it's also difficult when I get interested in something. I usually have lots and lots of new ideas, but those new ideas require time and space for me to kind of think about them and develop them. And sometimes with different assessments and just the amount of things that we need to learn and get ready for, it kind of prolongs the whole process, I guess. Maybe I could have done something in 2 months, but it ends up being 6 months later, and then that kind of causes frustration as well. So I don't know, and I think what Jung was saying is important as well, that supporting people that are trying to develop something new is important, because from my experience as well, from my colleagues even, I get a lot of questions about why are you even bothering doing that? What's the point? And when you're beginning something, that can be very difficult, because I don't want to have to justify why I'm doing something other people aren't doing to my colleagues, or even sometimes senior colleagues or anything like that. Uh, there's more of an attitude of skepticism, I think, than support, and that can be also off-putting and difficult. And sometimes you're already questioning yourself and your abilities, and am I ready to do something, or things like that. And then when someone asks you to justify your actions, it kind of is a little bit disappointing as well. So yeah.
I'm not sure if it will be good, but I have the same feeling. If it's kind of helps, but I have the same feeling exactly. And Ewing or Bianca, Amber, would like to talk?
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, going back on what Veronica was saying about support, I find most of my peers, they're not sort of skeptical, but they do kind of think, oh well, someone has to do it, so I'm glad it's not me, type of attitude. But you know, I always found, especially coming from a small country, the Virgin Islands is a very small country. Our population is only about 35,000. The person who makes the difference isn't the one who's standing on the podium, trying to be a trailblazer and trying to get everyone to rally behind them. It's the small person who's kind of questioning, oh, well, why are we doing this? Why don't we try something new? And I think that's more of the type of leader that I want to be anyway, because it doesn't require any special amount of skill. It just requires you to be a little bit more interested and a little bit more dedicated in something that you're passionate about. And I think as a medical student, well, at least in my course, they keep trying to encourage us to have a questioning mind. So every time we learn a clinical skill, they always ask, oh, why are you doing it this way? And of course, we respond because you told us to do it like this. But, all of our teachers really want us to get into the attitude of saying, oh, well, why do we do it like this? Is there any reason why we can't do something else that's better? And I think being a leader requires you to be brave enough to ask those kind of questions to people who are more senior than you, more experienced than you, because you do have to be naive enough to think that you can do it better even though you have no experience.
Yeah, I don't know if like a lot of I don't know if you have this on your countries, but here in Brazil they say that the students have the power to change, but that we have a lot of voice. But my reality is that we have voice, but sometimes you're not heard, or we try to have voice and they are not interested, or they teachers, professors prefer to do in their own way because they think that they are right, even if we don't think so. In simple things like time and schedules and this kind of things. Just kind of find this space, and I know that we have different universities, but for me, we need to create space and find ways to create voice for us. It was kind of harsh during my even my 4 years of med school. I got really involved with participating of academic meetings and coordinating and presidencing and being president and sharing a lot of sharing our frustration and sharing fears with other students and trying to have some answers from the universe. And it's quite of harsh, and but same point, I feel that sometimes I need to do it, or someone will not do it, and find new people to do it is difficult as well. So kind of interesting. I don't know how it works in your universities. How is the student's voice?
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I feel the same as Mayara, and I enjoyed what Amber said about being brave, because lots of time I totally agree with her when she said that we have to question people that have more experience than us, questioning why do I have to do this like this, why it's this way, and I don't know if this was what Mayra was saying before, but in my university we have um, lots of lecturers pushing us to do some scientific initiations and scientific um, works. And sometimes, just like Ewan said before, we have to manage exams and internships and everything. And at the same time, at least my university, it's a private one, and it pushes us to have a great curriculum with lots of articles and publications, and it's really hard to manage all of this, and you have to be brave to sometimes stop and okay, I have to manage my time, and I still have to be a medical student. I still have to learn about heart failure. I still have to 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 do one thing at a time, and especially in med school that we have lots of hours of at least in Brazil. I don't know how it is in other countries, but here in Brazil especially we have sometimes uh, I don't know how to say this, but sometimes 8 hours of classes a day. 4 hours in the morning plus 4 hours in the afternoon, and you still have to study at night, and at the same time you have to finish a publication, and you have to be part of Rural Cafe, and you have to see your emails, and you have, so sometimes it's really hard, and you have to be brave to stop and think and prioritize what's really important. But sometimes I feel that I'm lost. Sometimes I don't know where to go, and I'm afraid because uh, I was thinking, I'm just like Mahara said, I now I am the president of family medicine group of study group in my university, and this is another thing that probably it's a kind of leadership, and I'm happy to think like this, and proud as well. But at the same time, sometimes I feel that I have to be a hero to be able to manage my time and do everything at the same time. So, and Ewing was saying before that the university has to support the students, but sometimes I feel that my university doesn't support me, because it just pushes me to do some new publications in top scientific themes, not the one that I really want. That here in Brazil, sometimes family medicine is not one at the top of the scientific themes. So yeah, it's really hard. But I do believe that here, Rural Family Medicine Cafe is a leadership place, and I feel that as a medical student, sometimes I feel lost. Yeah, that's it.
It's you, and I just wanted to say a couple of things. I wanted to reflect on my trip to Croatia and a conversation I had with a young rural doctor on the back of a bus on the way to a restaurant. Talking with Veronica made me realize how important she was as a leader, because leadership is opportunistic. It means that sometimes in your role as a student or a young doctor, you have an opportunity to, I guess, talk with other people about the situation that you find yourself in, the challenges and opportunities. So leadership is about taking opportunities when they present themselves, and I learned a lot about general practice training in Croatia through talking with Veronica in a simple conversation. So I think people sometimes really worry that it's going to be too much, it's going to be too much to do to fit in and cover everything else that they have to do. So I always like to think that leadership is opportunistic. I think leadership is being brave as well. I don't think anybody thanks you for being a leader. Leaders often have to have that internal drive, that extra enthusiasm for what they do, because no one else is going to tell them they're going to do a good job. And often organisations, whether they're universities or colleges or even government, they're not looking for young leaders because they've already got these old people with grey hair who know everything, who can tell you all about all sorts of things, and who needs a young person to tell you what to do or what to know. I guess then that leadership is also about acknowledging that you may not have all the answers, but you have a point of view, and often your point of view is much more relevant and I guess the word I'm looking for is relevant, and it's immediate as well, because students come into communities, they see things with a new pair of eyes, they bring their training with them, and often they'll make observations that a person who's worked in a community for 30 years may not see. And I think you have to have that opportunity to understand that you do bring expertise to things that you do, that medical students obviously have much more training and much more scientific knowledge than a lay person, even if they're not a professor of medicine. And they have tremendous opportunity to observe and to bring a different point of view to problems. And it's important that organisations, communities, listen to young doctors and medical students, because they're highly trained professionals, even though they often don't think so themselves. And they can bring important observations and learnings to medicine. So I hear what you're saying about the fear and the uncertainty, and I think I hear what you say about the real challenge of being the first person, because there's no one there to hold you up, and there's often no one there to catch you either. If you make a mistake or you say something, then you think, gee, should I have really said that? It's a bit like being in the trenches of a war and being the first person to stick your head up. A leader often has to have the strength to do that. I guess the other thing about leaders is having followers, and it's often the first follower that makes a leader. So if you can get people, even if they don't, telling them they don't have to present, they don't have to do anything, but if they just come on your journey with you, it's so important for a leader to have followers. So I guess just to summarize, I just wanted to say that young leadership is critically important, but don't underestimate yourself. Don't underestimate the power of a simple conversation, because leadership can be opportunistic. And don't underestimate the education and training that you already have, and the importance of bringing that with you when you go to rural communities, and being strong to make those observations when you see them. So it is quite challenging, and I think it's a great thing to have the World Cafe, and for people to talk and understand that leadership is not easy. So I'll stop talking, but I hope that makes sense.
I think yes. Yeah, I think it's nice that also when you say that you don't have an answer but you have a point of view. I totally agree with this. Like, and sometimes you need to be strong and brave to hold that point of view, and even if you study it and you are kind of sure that that is the way or one of the ways. And it's nice that I developed the project called Health Education League in the community, and to recognize the local leaders and the local leadership of the people there, and even to help them to see each other as a leader, kind of like recognize themselves and work together to change the community health. And this was one of the great experience that I have, that you need to share your leadership, and it's kind of hard to don't concentrate everything in your hands and trying to be fair to everybody, and sometimes you are not. This one of the great skills, like and how to deal with community and learn with them how to manage to create the leaderance, or even you have leaderance there that do not recognize themselves as leaderance. So sometimes you can have a great role helping them to recognize and give some tools, and they will leader themselves to what they want. Or if even if you like, so telling briefly about an experience here in Brazil in a fishing community that we work. It's called Barras community, is in the city that I study, and we have a women group that with artisans, and then we started to talk about health problems, as part of the project. And at some points we start to talk about our health system, and the Brazilian laws say that everybody needs to have their own right of having complete health care and don't need to pay, and it's a main of the country. They need to care of the people's health. And then we discussed this in a meeting, and then the women say, so why we don't have? And then we start, well, you don't have yet a health-based unit. We can do a local council that you can fight and struggle for your own rights in the city council. And then they did it. And we create a huge trouble for us all in the university, and even with the city councilors and everything, because they start to struggle for their own right to health. And this was one of the most beautiful leadership things that I could see in me, and seeing that woman that decides to put their hands on the law and say, well, if it's in the law, you have the right, and we will fight for this. And when I see women that do not are able to even write and stands and say that she has the right to be to have complete healthcare, it was kind of empowering. And I think the leadership have this power to empowering, and we deal with different kind of power. So I don't know what you think, if you have any nice experience to share. Amber, Bianca.
I can talk more about not a patient experience, but just an experience from the point of view of a student. Because the track that I'm on, the rural and remote health and medical education, it's fairly new. There were only about 10 of my 70 classmates who were on it and active in it. So one of the things the university did was to try and get us to sort of advertise it to other students. And a lot of students didn't want to do it because they thought, oh, being on the rural track just means I'll be stuck in the middle of nowhere. But I kind of made a conscientious effort to show them that you can do a lot more with rural health than you can when you're in the normal teaching hospital, because the teaching hospital has medical students, but they also have GP trainees, staff grade trainees, other people who are further along their career than we are. Whereas in the rural practice, you get a lot of time to know the patient, you get to know the community, you get to know the staff, you get to know the ins and outs of how things work when you don't have everything that you need in a less than ideal situation. And a lot of students think that that's not the ideal learning environment, but I think it's the complete opposite. I think when you don't have everything that the textbook has, then you start thinking, okay, why do we do that? Why do you do an X-ray instead of a CT scan? What is the cost behind all of these things? And then when you get into a hospital, instead of just, when you get the request form and you tick everything under the sun, then you understand what each of those things mean. And one of the things that I've kind of given myself is to be an advocate for learning medicine in a rural and remote setting by using myself as an example. So I have entered competitions with projects I've done in rural health, and I've done a summer school in the Netherlands at Groningen University, not just to improve my own career, but also to show students that, even though we're a tiny university in the middle of a semi-countryside area, you can take rural education and go as far as you want with it. You have to give that responsibility to yourself, not to the university. And a lot of students find that a bit strange, but I think that it's good to kind of develop that innate skill. Just as Ewan was saying, as a leader, you often don't have people telling you, that you're doing a good job, keep going, I'll support you. You're the one who has to do it on your own. And yeah, I don't know. I feel more comfortable doing that in rural settings because it's a smaller scale. So then when I do end up in the big hospital, I know I've done this before. I still kind of don't know what I'm doing, but I know that I'll be okay. And then I can find someone to help me if, it doesn't work out properly. But yeah, I think that's the best example I can think of, trying to get other students interested in rural and remote health education by using myself as an example to promote the fact that it is a good learning environment.
I think it's a great advertising and experience as well. Like, you're doing leadership. I don't know. Bianca, Ewing, Veronica?
Yeah, I agree with Amber that often you kind of use yourself, I guess, as an example and hope that other people will follow you. And touching on what Ewan was saying about followers, I think an important skill is also knowing how to encourage people once they follow you, because often people might follow you, but they're very reluctant to get more involved. And sometimes learning how to encourage other people when you're doubting yourself at the same time can be sort of challenging. But I think it's also an important skill to develop, and I feel that people that have contacted me to join into something, often they need some kind of reassurance, or they need exact instructions on how to do something, and sometimes you don't really know how to give them those exact instructions because you're not even sure what you exactly did. So it can be a little bit challenging from that side as well.
I think you need to be very proactive. Like, you need to run to find some answers that are not there to find. It's not on Google, and you need to send thousands of emails and come back and check and find your own ways to find a way to do something, and then maybe you have some answers and a lot of people will not answer you, and you keep going because you try to find other ways. You need to be creative. It's kind of nice. Ewing, would you like to talk?
Yeah, I think with leadership you have to have a lot of self-care because you can burn yourself out very quickly. So it's important as a skill to be able to step away, to be mindful, to understand that you can't fix all the world's problems, and be able to just identify those battles that you can win. I think the other thing that is so opportunistic now is the use of social media, of using blogs, of writing down your observations, of telling your stories. I think the power of a story as a leader is can't be underestimated, because human beings are storytellers. We've been storytellers since the dawn of time, and I think that young leaders, it's their experiences that drive them towards leadership. And there's unique experiences and these unique stories that you all can tell that really add weight and power to what you do. So I encourage people to think about telling their stories in new and different ways, to use both our social media, but also our mainstream media, radio and TV, and often in my job as a president for Rural Doctors in Australia, I now get phone calls from the press, from radio, from television, and I don't know how it happens, but you get a reputation for being someone to go to have an opinion, and as a leader, that can be quite challenging, because not only do you have to know something about what you're talking about, but you have to avoid stepping on a whole bunch of toes at the same time, particularly powerful ones. So one of the really topical things at the moment that I was asked to comment on was the use of, in my rural area, we're surrounded by many industries, including coal and agriculture, and there's things called particulates, which are small, obviously small molecules which are inhaled deep into the lungs, PM10 and PM2.5. And there are risks associated with that, of chronic disease, of heart disease, of sudden death, and obviously chronic fibrotic lung diseases. And it's very, very, very political at the moment, because of the diagnosis recently of some coal workers' pneumoconiosis, which we thought possibly had disappeared from our from Western communities, particularly with our new ways of mining. So when you're a medical leader in a rural area, suddenly people are asking your opinion about things that possibly you don't know that much about. And you have to, as a leader, be able to say what you know, but not, obviously not put yourself in a position of being an expert. And I think it's sometimes you need a little bit of wisdom and some guidance to know what to say regards that, because for example, with the use of fine particulates and their impact on health is a significant issue for rural areas, particularly industrial areas where there's a lot of mining or agriculture. So leadership can be quite challenging in that respect. So you need to think about particularly how you manage this. Yeah. So
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
All right. I completely agree with you, even when he says about self-care, and this is sometimes really difficult for me, because especially in, I don't know how to say, but in some classes or ethical discussions, for example, sometimes you have to be brave to say your opinion, your point of view, and I believe that when you are brave to say that, you are being maybe a leader in that moment, but at the same time you have to be be careful with your words, because as Ewan said, you can burn yourself easily. And what he said before, that I totally agree, and Mayara also pointed that we have to know that maybe we do not have all the answers, but we do have a point of view, and it has to be valuable. It has its value. So I completely agree with you, and this is really in I lost the word. This really makes me go for it, because sometimes because knowing that maybe we do not have the answer, maybe we do not have gray hair or something like that. We do have our point of view, and it has to be important. The other thing that I would like to say, that when Veronica said that we have to use ourselves as an example, this is really important, and really, it's a big responsible, because sometimes I do maybe ask someone else help, and I also do not know how to say what I want, because I just do want to do something. I specifically, in my case, I do want some help in my family medicine study group in my university, but I do not know exactly what I need. I just need someone to be a leader, to be proactive, to be there with me. And sometimes I want to be an example. I want to be someone for them to follow, but I don't know exactly how to be that one. Sometimes I don't know how to attract people to follow me. So this is a little bit a hard task, because sometimes it's easier just do it by yourself. Sometimes it's easier you do by yourself, you do everything, and you don't ask some help. But maybe if I could be a better example, maybe people could be able to follow me, and I would be able to be a better leader.
Yeah. Veronica would like to talk.
About Aspire?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Keep
so
going.
inside Wonka, we have initiated the Aspire Global Leadership Program. This program was initiated by Kyle Hodebeck from the USA, and it's spread into all of the regions of Wonka. And I will read a short description about it. So Aspire is a global leadership program, and it's developed for medical students, residents, and junior family medicine general practitioners. It stands for academics, students, pre-conferences, international collaboration, research, residents, and exchanges. And it aims at improving people's capabilities and then use of their newly developed skills to help others. The goal is that each participant becomes personally invested in the program for the improvement of Junior Wonka members and beyond. It is a tiered program, so it has Aspire levels 1 to 3, as well as an Aspire instructor level. And from what I know, they have mentors in place that help to guide through the tiered program. I don't know if any of you know anything more about the program. Unfortunately, we couldn't have anyone join us who's actively leading one of the Aspire programs, so that's all that I have for now.
Ewing would like to talk.
Thank you. Yes, I haven't an association with Aspire myself in Australia, but I think it's critically important that through Wonka that this program is spread throughout the world, because we need to support and empower our leaders. and give people opportunities to lead. It does require special skills, and I think that you guys have certainly spoken a lot about the challenges and the opportunities of leadership. The Aspire program obviously is an important part of that, but I guess if people are looking for somewhere to get that information, that to really start to understand how they can bring out their own leadership passion, then the Aspire program is certainly a very important aspect of that. You know, I think it's something we've got to keep promoting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the proposal of the Aspire, because it's kind of training you how to do some things, and I think a lot of the challenges that we are bringing on this rural cafe will be addressed by Aspire. But even we come back to some of the things that Wing said before, that we have different levels of leadership. Maybe we can be more local, and on Aspire we can be more global, or be the both together. So it's kind of interesting. I got interesting, and you can go to the Sun page. I'm not sure what is the linking page, but it's sites.google.com and some ambassadors, and then you can find more about Aspire as well. Yeah, links on Twitter, Veronica just said. And would you like to talk, Amber?
I just wanted to ask, how you as a medical student, and maybe Bianca can answer as well, about dealing with the new Zika virus situation, because obviously it's something that affects me, well, not me, but my family, and I will have to deal with it when I return to the Caribbean. But so far, the only thing that I've been able to think of how I can help is by being an advocate. So I'm running an information evening at the university here in Swansea, and I'll probably do it again when I go back to the Caribbean in the summer. But I just wanted to know, since we're talking about leadership on different levels, what you guys' perspective was and what you could do as medical students about it.
Would you like to talk, Bianca?
I think that you could start, and maybe I can add something to you, because I don't know if you do have any formal information from your uni or your lecturers, but I don't. At this time, I am in my holidays, and they're long holidays, like 2 months. So since this Zika virus and chikungunya disease, everything, it came up on media. I was already on my holiday, so I have no formal information from my uni or my lecturers. We are being, how to say, we are almost in a war, in the media war, full of informations from everywhere, from anywhere, sometimes with no evidence. We have, in my opinion, such a panic going on in our country, and we have a lot of different hypotheses of what is the cause of the microcephaly. I don't know if this is the right word in English. I don't know, Maya, do you have any formal information from your uni or something like that?
For my university, actually not at all, but I'm reading and getting through the emails and everything, and I think the Brazilian media is doing a huge work, but sometimes not in the better way. So and me and Bianca, we are not from the areas that are being directly affected. And even if you have more cases of Zika virus, we don't have proof that it causes microcephaly. So actually yesterday the I'm not sure what is the word, rewording it on English, but the Association of Collective Health or Population's Health in Brazil made a note discussing about this. But what we had now here in my states, a lot of dengue, and it's been struggling against the mosquito. And I think one of the things that maybe we are not using the right tools. It's one of the things that's being really discussed here, Amber, is that some organizations recommend to use like something in our water to stop the mosquito, and we have some other organizations that say that's not the best idea. So it's kind of really confusing now to be here in Brazil, and I think I'm actually not getting really involved, and we are not in the risk area, so we don't have a lot of to talk. I think maybe if we have other students that are living that, maybe they could talk more. I can even talk to them. But for now, is that I have to talk. It's kind of mess here.
Yes, it's a completely mess, and I really try to don't follow any news that I don't know who is saying that. And what I really think that make us really confused is the fact that we don't have official news. We don't have official information. We do have some, of course.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, we do. Sorry, but what I mean is that we also do lots of different news that are not official. So we don't know who to believe. Some are official, and that ones I'm trying to believe on, but the other ones I always try to don't believe at the first time and wait for something new. And we have some. I don't know how to say this in English, but today we had some activity with our army. So we have some people from our army going house to house to help people to decrease the mosquito and the places where it can proliferate. And this is a good thing that I believe that it's happening. I think that may be effective at the moment, but information about the causes of the microcephaly, official information about it, I don't think that we do have so much as we could maybe.
Yeah, actually, it's a lot of things going on some and Facebook, and the things are confusing. But one of the things that I think is not being well discussed is that the increasing of the mosquito, the Aedes aegypti, is one of the causes of getting the forests, cutting the forests, and having this kind of consequence. So we are the impact of the nature change that the man is doing on the nature. So it's one of the things that we are not discussing a lot of with this epidemic of Zika virus and dengue and chikungunya. So this is one of the things, and even what is being constructed and in Brazil, and the exploitation of the nature, it's what makes the mosquito arise. So this is one of the things that I think I'm missing on the media discussion. It's much more sensationalist than it should be, I think. We are doing so. It's going a lot of things on Facebook and Twitter as well to discuss it, and a lot of and much more question as well. It's that. I'm not sure if we answer you. I'm not sure if Bianca would like to say more.
Well, yeah, I think you guys answered my question pretty well, because I always think, it's situations of conflict like this where people who kind of end up being in leadership positions come from. So like I wanted to organize the information evening because obviously if the Zika virus is causing the microcephaly, it will mean that there's an entire generation of people who will be affected by it. And I think as future doctors, then we need to be informed about it. So I took it upon myself to kind of get people at least paying attention, maybe not dedicating themselves to tropical medicine, but at least saying, okay, well, at least I can't say I didn't know anything about it. At least I know a little bit about it. So it's not like a complete, over dramatic reaction like we're seeing now with the media.
But about dengue and chikungunya, it's in Portuguese, but the Brazilian government leave free kind of classes on UNASUS. It's kind of the university of our health system. It's openly and it's on the internet, and I think hopefully they will put something around Zika as well on the website. It's really interesting, so I can send it. At least if you're studying Portuguese, that I know you can use it. It's UNASUS. I can send it after, and we get a lot of information of how to diagnose and do all the things that you need to do about the epidemiology verification and notification and all the things that we are using to deal with that. So, yeah. I'm not sure if Ewing have more information, or Veronica would like to talk.
Just about Zika virus, it's obviously received worldwide attention in the media, and but Australians particularly are very mobile people and travel quite a bit. So I had a consultation with a couple who are going to Brazil later this year, and obviously a young lady asking about what Zika virus means for her. And so the challenge is, even in my small country town in the middle of Australia, I have people worried about Zika virus. The information that I've been able to gain is from the CDC website in the US, which has a Zika virus page. With the current knowledge that of the epidemiology and infectivity of the Zika virus and some of the issues of prevention. I think one of the real challenges for Australia is that we are an island nation, but we have the same Aedes aegypti mosquito as you have, and the real risk for Australia is, or the challenge is, preventing these sort of diseases from entering the country. So we have dengue, but we don't have obviously Zika virus or chikungunya. I can't say that, but so we have an environment which with the same mosquitoes, but not a lot of these diseases. So as an island nation, we have a fairly strict quarantine and arrangements at the borders to get into the country can be quite challenging, particularly obviously for yellow fever and other infective diseases. So it's very much a topic of interest in Australia. We've had 3 women diagnosed with Zika virus through a history of recent travel in Australia so far. And I think it's just symptomatic of how mobile people are and how much travelling they do. And I guess the real challenge will be the Olympic Games later this year and what that means for the very large number of people who'll be visiting Rio and other places. So interesting times, and it's interesting to see a new virus, isn't it, appearing, and how it's so important, particularly for rural doctors and rural students, to be aware that there's always something new happening, and we have to keep our eyes open and to be very vigilant for new or changed viruses, new infective diseases and novel diseases we've never seen before appearing. And I'm sure if we always stayed with what we knew, we would never realise what's happening until it was too late.
Sure, I think we come back what we were discussing about the opinion and our opinions and the importance of our leaders and what we said and all of this. And I think the Olympic Games will be massive event and a huge thing for Brazil to deal with this year. And even the discussion if it should be cancelled or not and all of this. So this is the things that are running out the media and the discussions now. I'm not sure. We will see. But we are studying and trying to go ahead with everything. So I'm not sure, coming back to leadership, or I don't know if anyone would like to ask or add more things. About Zika, I just put on my Twitter the note of the Brazilian Association of Collective Health, and I think it's the best document that I have access until now. It's more complete, but it's in Portuguese. I check if they have something in English. And relating to Aspire, I just would like to we have more things going on about leadership on Wonka. I think Wonka Rural. I think like the family medicine change makers and the parent and the ambassadors project from some media. We have a lot of things going on. Anyone could talk a little bit more about maybe the other projects? I think you are on Valent as well.
No, I'm not. No.
No, okay, yeah. I was thinking that you were there. So actually, you can get on the website that Veronica put alive that informations, and we have the ambassadors and one word for family medicine. This is the social medias things that are going on. And anyone would like to bring more things in relation to our leadership? I'm not sure how it's going. Facebook and Twitter. Amber and Veronica.
Facebook is very quiet. I've only had Joy, who said that she won't be able to come in today, but she will watch the video later. So no, I don't have anything to add from that point.
Maybe it will come later.
Yeah.
Same on Twitter.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to participate on both discussing and Twitter managing. Okay, so anyone would like to bring more things relating to leadership on rural and on family medicine?
I just wanted to ask if your universities had a society that was specifically about clinical leadership, because my university tried it, I think, but once the founder graduated, it sort of lost interest because people were reluctant to take up leadership positions, even from the point of view of joining a society that taught leadership skills. So I wanted to know if anyone else had a similar experience with trying to develop a leadership group.
Not at all. It's an interesting point.
Okay, there is a group in the UK that is developing leadership. I think Jane Purvey leads it. I'll find the link somewhere and put it up for you. I'm not sure if they're a college for leadership or something like that work on leadership skills inside the UK. And they were actually in Dubrovnik at the Rural Conference, so that's how I know about them. And I wanted to say regarding leadership in rural health, I think rural practice is a place where you're probably expected to take on more leadership roles, as you're usually the most senior doctor or in the area or in the town. And I think that in itself exposes you to having to learn how to be a leader. And that can be probably as well a reason why some people might be reluctant to take up a rural post, because in a city you usually have a senior doctor to ask for help if you're not sure about something, and it's your experience usually during all of university that you're always going to someone to consult about a decision or something that you're not sure about, or things like that. So I think that developing some sort of leadership program for rural areas is very important as a way of also recruiting doctors into rural areas, because I think they will feel more ready to take on that kind of position than just coming from a place where we weren't taught in a rural area, nothing like that. You don't know what to expect, and all of a sudden you're put into this position where you have to take on more roles that you don't feel ready to take on. So from that point of view, I think that particularly in rural practice, developing leadership skills at a university level, or at least during training, is vital.
Sure, I
Thanks,
think
Ewan.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to put up some links to some of the leadership groups in Australia that relate to young doctors and medical students, in particular to the FGP, which is the Future GP Leadership Group, and I'll put up a link to that on Twitter. In Australia, we have a number of, every university has a rural student club, and those student clubs promote and support many different things, including philanthropic activity, so doing good work in communities and countries around us. And obviously Australia is surrounded by some small island nations and New Guinea, which need a lot of help and support. I'll also put up a link to Rocket Ship, which is a health advocacy and health intervention that's been set up by a young doctor, Lachlan MacGyver, who's now a public health professional in the small islands to the north of Australia. So I think these are some things that may be of interest to people, because leadership is about being able to talk to other leaders, and certainly Wonka works very hard in this space. I guess through my experiences both in Prague and Croatia, I have met a lot of you, and I think that sort of connection that you all have, and the immediacy of Twitter and Facebook and groups like this, even if there's only 5 or 6 of you, there'll be a whole bunch of people watching who'll be taking in information and learning. So yeah, leadership's always a challenge, and but the fact that you're working and doing this work is again really important. But I also come back to the fact that you often do have a lot of followers. Possibly you don't know who they are, but so I'll put some links up online that I think are relevant to have a look at, and possibly even connect with some of the people by following them on Twitter or following the hashtags. There's a future general practice conference coming up soon in April in Brisbane in Australia. So lots of things happening. I think that in Australia we've done very well with our rural health clubs, with our rural doctors movements, and there's a very strong rural voice in Australia because 1/3 of Australians live in the country, and rural Australians do have poorer outcomes of their health. You wouldn't think so in a first world country, but people in rural Australia live less long. There's higher rates of suicide, higher rates of occupational and ischemic heart disease. So the challenge of rural practice and rural medicine is very great, doesn't matter where you are. And it's really important to motivate students and give them an opportunity to have a voice. And I think a rural health club is a great way to start. It can be a mechanism by which future leaders of both the local, state and government can be born out of rural health clubs. So I think that's an important opportunity for people to utilise when they're trying to think about how to create future leaders. So I'll put those links up for you in a moment to have a look at. And look, just thanks to everybody for the opportunity to talk, and hope I haven't taken up too much of your time.
I think, yes, we are going to the end of our Rural Cafe. It was really interesting. I think on Rural we have a lot of new challenges because usually it's less care in the rural, so we have a lot of leadership to develop there, and even with the community. And I would like to say thanks and say to everybody to close if you have any idea to close. And we are up to finish our 5th Rural Family Medicine Cafe. It's a good achievement. Now we have 5 programs alive on YouTube, and you can go to the channel and watch it. So I don't know if anyone would like to say something to close.
I just would like to thank you all as well. It was a really nice cafe, this one. It was a really good way to feel more confident, to maybe become a better leader. And I found some learnings about how to develop my leadership. And this was really nice as a medical student. And I feel that this is absolutely important for my future in the rural practice, as Veronica said before. So thank you all.
Veronica, Amber?
I'd just like to say thank you, and I also think it was a good cafe, and it's an important space, I guess, to just support each other if we can't find support elsewhere.
Amber?
Yeah, I agree with Veronica. It's nice that, even though we're kind of out on a limb, we have each other at least to share our stories. And I really enjoyed hearing all the experiences that you guys had to contribute to the talk today. And to close, I'd just like to say to be brave, guys. Remember to be brave.
Okay, so thank you everybody, and see you on the next Rural Cafe. We have the timer already on the Rural Family Medicine page of the Some Ambassadors, so I think it will be on 5th of March, and we will be advertising it on Facebook and Twitter and every place. So thank you everybody, and we keep talking on Twitter, Facebook, and leave your comment on YouTube. If you find a way to communicate with us. Thank you, Ewan and Rose. See you. Bye.
See you. Thank you all. Bye.